Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Tank12, whatever you call me, I don't really care. Welcome back to World of Tanks, where we are today playing the T26E4 Super Pershing. This is a tank that was released over 10 years ago, and it's probably one of the oldest American premium tanks next to the T34, when that was released, and the M6, the Mutant M6. And it was the first and the only tier 8 premium medium tank, but you have to probably put the medium tank in quotation marks because the T26E4 is more of a heavy than a medium tank. It's really heavily armored, and that's exactly one of the main reasons why it caused so many issues. Not just on the battlefield, but also for wargaming. This is probably the last premium tank that was nerfed, and it was the last time where Wargaming moved themselves into the corner and where they have made a decision that has caused quite a bit of mayhem for them afterwards. So, without further ado, let's play the T26E4 Super Pershing, and let's also talk a little bit about its replacement. Because the replacement for this tank is basically the M47 Improved, or also known as the Iron Arnie. Now, the Iron Arnie is a tank that was released with the Christmas loot boxes. It basically does the same thing that the Super Pershing does, but better. It has a better gun, it has more DPM because of the higher alpha, and it's about just as fast. The armor is still... I think the armor is better on the M47 Improved. And the Super Pershing kind of looks worse in almost every single scenario, if you put them head to head. Maybe the turret is a bit more, like, sturdy on this one. Especially the cupola over there. But the M47 Improved, or the Iron Arnie, also has a cupola on top. And I think that one is a bit easier to hit than or maybe on the Super Pershing. But why is this tank so infamous for creating mayhem in the ranks of Wargaming? So when they released this tank in 2012 or 13, it's again one of those times where I'm not entirely sure when it was released, but it was released into the game, and it was one of the very first few tanks outside of the Soviet tech tree that had spaced armor. And the idea is that the spaced armor, or the added armor that we have right here, did have quite an impact on the tank itself. This additional armor plating that we have on the vehicle, which I am going to be using, hopefully, effectively in this gameplay. Okay, there's a Chinese tank right there, but he shouldn't be able to penetrate me. Is a bit of a problem for Wargaming, because when they released it, they released this tank in a state where it was just a bit too good. So what happened? The tank itself was just able, as I am right here, to bounce quite a few shots that the standard Pershing, which we should have a short little prayer for because it's a very sad tank and it's still a tier 8. Well, the standard Pershing doesn't have that armor, so players started to bounce off the Super Pershing. And especially the lower plate down here was incredibly well armored, and people started to kind of not be able to deal with the Pershing or the Super Pershing. So Wargaming, as smart as they are, decided to nerf the tank. And that was the first time... Oh god, that guy just got blown up. That was the first time Wargaming have actually nerfed a tier 8 premium tank. And ever since then, Wargaming do not nerf premium tanks anymore. And that's the story of why we have tanks such as the BZ-176, and why it's just so useless for us to actually deal with these tanks, because basically Wargaming maneuvered themselves into a position where they are unable to really do anything about their state. If the vehicle is too good, Wargaming are not going to be refunding the players the money because they've sold the vehicle, and in the end it's sadly going to be the tank that will stay in there, and it can only get worse. So basically, the Super Pershing has a legacy that is very, very sad if you look at it from a gameplay's perspective, because this tank itself has created quite a conundrum for Wargaming because of their inability to maneuver themselves into a position where they actually are able to make a tank less powerful again. So I'm going to actually put some pressure on these guys. That's what the Super Pershing still can do fairly well if I am a bit careful there. I went a little bit too crazy around the corner. And we really want to kill the BZ-176 because with his gun, the BZ-176 can be a, a bit of an issue. But the AT-15 should be taking care of him, or we are going to be able to do that. Nope, we're not. Right there. This is a bit of a awkward situation, but it also shows off just that the Super Pershing, with all of its armor, is still fairly capable of fighting a good fight inside of the city. This game is not lost by any margin, but you can see we are in a little bit of a, well, uncomfortable situation where we have to now turn around and go back to the base. But we do have quite a few tanks sitting close to base who can put up some resistance for us. Now, armor-wise, I think that the M46 or the M47 pattern improved and the Super Pershing, both of them are not like looking like worse. The armor is still very good. Wargaming have found a very nice place where they were able to actually make the armor effective without making it overpowered. If you know the weak spots of the Super Pershing, you're going to be able to take care of it without a problem. And also, since there is quite a bit of premium ammunition nowadays, you shouldn't have too much of an issue handling the Super Pershing if you have a little bit of heat, or maybe you hit those spots every once in a while. This is a very important shot that I just missed there. So, yeah, sadly for us, we lose this game based on losing the base right there. But one thing that the Super Pershing and the M47 improved have never been known for, or at least the Super Pershing in that case, is that the accuracy was never really there. So, in that sense, the Super Pershing never really was a really good tank to fight at longer distances. But you can still see, like, playing very aggressively, the armor holds up, you're still able to utilize the armor, but in the end, the dispersion values let us down, sadly, in the end. And why is that? Because I went for the wrong upgrade there, as you can see right. Also, we probably do not need extra concealment when playing this tank, so we're just going to go for reverse speed to improve upon that. But where is the issue nowadays? Like, where does the issue lie with the Super Pershing and the Iron Arnie? Basically, the Iron Arnie is incredibly tough. It's even worse. Like, the side turret of the Iron Arnie is protected very, very well because of this additional armor. You can see it goes all around, it wraps itself around the turret. That's just something you don't have in the Super Pershing. On the Super Pershing, the turret is still quite exposed, even though the additional armor plates you have are quite effective, right? It's quite thick, as you can see, but it's not going to be able to withstand all of that, you know, high penetrating rounds that the M47 Iron Arnie is able to do. And that's why the Super Pershing, the T26E4, in today's meta, where you want to have more alpha as well, not just a good rate of fire or a high rate of fire, you also want to have the alpha damage that you can add on top of that. That's just where the Super Pershing drops off. That's where a lot of the tier 8 premium medium tanks drop off. I think a lot of the tanks should at least, if they have a 90mm gun, they should at least improve the alpha damage to 280. I think 280 is a pretty nice sweet spot for 90mm guns. They are not going to be constantly going above 300, but they have much higher chances of doing more damage than 230, 240. they might be rolling in the 290 area, maybe 300. Especially considering since there are quite a few tanks that have a lot of armor, a lot of HP, and I think it would kind of benefit a lot of tanks that are deemed to be broken or just no longer competitive. The T26E4, no, is it the E4? Well, what I mean is this tank over here, the T26E5. It's basically the Pershing, but with more armor and as a heavy tank with a 90mm gun, also known as the Patriot tank. Now the Patriot tank, in my opinion, does everything right. Really good armor, decent enough mobility, high rate of fire, but it has a 90mm gun. And the 90mm gun just doesn't allow you to do a lot of alpha damage. That's why a lot of players really, really dislike that tank. I made a review on the T26E5, and when I made a review on that vehicle, a lot of players were really upset about the fact that I didn't really talk too much about the alpha damage. And they deemed the tank to be unnecessary and impractical because of the low alpha damage. Now, I'm a player who has always played vehicles with high DPM, but maybe not the best alpha damage. Now, usually, if you have really high DPM, that means you have a combination of good rate of fire and also high alpha damage. Now, for me personally, I always kind of preferred for a very long time. How did I get like assistance damage on the Tiger? How did I spot that guy? For a very long time, I got a lot of like my enjoyment out of high rate of fire, and I didn't really care too much about the alpha damage. But it turns out, especially when the games are short and you don't have constantly something to shoot at, which sadly is the case when, you know, rounds end very, very quickly, you much rather also have some alpha damage, because the alpha damage will allow you to make much more out of the few shots you fired. Because the games are too short. I think the games, it would be a lot more interesting if the games were longer, and then you have like the choice between alpha and DPM. Because if the games were longer, you would be shooting more, you'd have more targets maybe as well. Maybe add more players, you know, that could also be quite interesting. And in that kind of sense, a high rate of fire with maybe low alpha comes in very handy. Because it doesn't help you that you can fire very, very quickly and a lot of rounds in a short period of time when there's nothing to shoot at because the game is over, or because somebody capped the base, or the map's just too small. That's just why I think the T26E4, the Super Pershing now, is no longer as well liked as it prior was. It's still a tank that a lot of players own. It's still a tank that, you know, a lot of players enjoy. I personally still play it. I have 2 marks of excellence, and I probably want to 3 mark this tank, because why the hell not? But if I had a choice nowadays to choose between this tank or the Iron Arnie, I think it would be stupid of me to pick the Super Pershing. Even though I might have, you know, some kind of sentiment that, you know, sentimental value that I attribute to this vehicle. Doesn't mean it's a bad tank, no. Not because of the, like, just because they added the Iron Arnie doesn't mean that the Super Pershing now all of a sudden, oh boy. We have a big problem right there. Doesn't mean that the Super Pershing all of a sudden is a worse tank, right? Okay, we have to. Okay, we have to kill these guys. No way! Did he just set me on fire? Okay, we're actually going to lose this match if if we don't do something. Okay, I'm gonna fall back. He shouldn't be able to pen me from the front, even with premium AP, if I keep my profile to him. Oh, God damn it, I think he had lower plate right there to go through. It's only 2 tanks, they just have to wait for the Rheinmetall, the Borsig, and the T25 to move in. If these guys just have some patience, because if they keep up there, they're gonna die. Especially that Ines is going to, yeah, he's going to die. But at least it looks like the IS did damage, and I think the Panther as well, because he lost 700 HP. Still a very interesting match, because it's a Škoda T56, and I was worried about that Škoda T56 because he was no longer over here, and I knew that he was going to be in that spot, but I thought with that armor and, you know, if we close in time, we would have enough time to take him on. But turns out I was a bit too callous, not careful enough. They just have to wait for the Rheinmetall, the Borsig. It's a slow tank, I know. But these guys just have to have some patience, especially at E25. Oh no. Oh no. At least he didn't stop behind the rock. Okay. I thought he was gonna miss him. Or, you know. He just needs to kill him. Come on, RHM, you just need to kill him. That's the only tank you need to take care of. And now, you close in. And it's important that this T25AT also joins them in this advance. But coming back to, you know, on topic, the Super Pershing, I have to check real fast, but I think the Super Pershing is also a vehicle that has preferential matchmaking. Why isn't he pushing him? He is reloading as well. Which would be quite a nice additional, you know, bonus. I think it has preferential matchmaking, right? I have to check the wiki real fast because I don't recall. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it has like the Super Pershing. I'm just typing it into my phone because I think the Super Pershing has preferential matchmaking. Yes, it actually has preferential matchmaking. I think, you know what? Super Pershing at tier 10, that's what you get with the Iron Arnie. I think I understand why the Super Pershing has preferential matchmaking. So in that sense, I think it's still a pretty good vehicle, if you look at it like that. I wouldn't say that the Iron Arnie has completely replaced the Super Pershing, but it kind of has taken the title that the Super Pershing held for a very long time with, you know, the added armor and being very special as a, like, up-armored medium tank. That is just something that the Iron Arnie now also possesses, and it just does it a bit better than the Super Pershing. And I think that's why the Super Pershing kind of has lost a bit of the coolness factor to it. But I still like this tank, and I'm going to be free marking it either way. I don't care. I don't really care. I'm at 92.08%. I didn't check for a long time. So it doesn't look too bad. Either way, I'm going to be free marking the Super Pershing, and we're going to be talking about other things in the near future. Next time, we're going to be checking another vehicle in the Revisited tab. We'll probably look for another premium tank, or we might look at the FV4202, because this used to be a tier 10 tank, and we might just take a look back at the Revisited of the FV4202. I still remember when this was a tier 10, and that was a lot of fun. So let me just put some camo on the Commander, because I haven't played this tank in a long time. But yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy. As always, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Until then, have a good one.